Oh, you know that music? You know, I see Chris is dancing over there. He knows what time it is. Chris, what time is it?
It's movie review time.
It's movie review time on There goes those levels. That's gonna be fun to fix in post. That's gonna be real fun to fix in post.
Good job, Matt.
It sounded like a ship going down.
You know what we need to do whenever we do these? I just need to take the volume and just go. All right, so today we're talking about a movie and everything. Once again, that's gonna be even more fun to fix in post.
Why are you doing that?
because he was low, and then he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be funny. I'm gonna raise it right now."
Don't worry, I remember where I had your dials at. You'll be good. Don't worry.
Off to a great start.
Yeah,
So I
we
figure
are.
because hey, if it's low, that means I can be loud.
Yeah,
That's what
they
that
can
means.
be extremely loud on these recordings. But yes, if you haven't turned us off by now because you're like, "What the hell is going on in this?" We are Variety.
Congratulations, you've passed.
You've passed the beginning of Variety Viso, a podcast that focuses on movies, television, and video games. I am your host, Joe Viso, and with me I have two amazingly lovely co-hosts who I'm surprised that have not gone insane from seeing bad movies, or possibly good ones now, who knows. With me I have...
Matthew Lundeen.
And I have the lovely...
Chris Duffy.
And I have the lovely...
Matthew Lundeen.
And the lovely...
Chris Duffy.
And yes, I just repeated their names twice, just for the hell of it, because why not? Hey! And you're probably thinking to yourself, when the hell are you guys going to talk about television and video games? Because the last few times, y'all have been talking about movies. Well, just wait.
We're getting to it.
We're getting to it. We got a big game right around the corner, okay? We got a lot of movies to review, too. And I have a TV show in mind to review with the guys. You know, might interest some people in the DC universe. Who knows? It's Titans. There's that, and then I have a Netflix series. I just finished it, and I was writing about it, actually. Just taking notes on it, thinking about, like, could we actually review this? Would that actually be fun? And yes, I think it would. American Vandal Season 2. I know, like, you guys have probably not watched Season 1.
I haven't, but I've
watched.
been told a lot of good things about American Vandal. I have like 7 or 6 TV shows that I've started and haven't finished.
I will tell you
Yeah.
right now, you do not have to watch Season 1 to watch Season 2.
Oh, is it?
I
did
know
they-
what the format is.
Yeah,
like there's
it's
no
a mockumentary, like,
So
anthology.
so they pull like a True Detective, and the new season is like entirely separate.
No, I mean, there's only 2 reoccurring characters.
Okay.
It's the main characters that are documenting, you know, who the Vandal is and everything.
Okay.
It's the guys making the documentary, quote unquote, because, you know, it's a mockumentary. And yeah, those are the only 2 characters that, you know, show up basically from the first season. But it is one of the most funniest. It's probably the funniest Netflix series I've watched.
Nice.
Cool.
I would love to do that. And then also at the end of the month, we have Daredevil Season 3, which we don't have to we don't have to review the whole season. We'll review the first like maybe 3 to 4 episodes. And then we have Castlevania Season 2, which is also coming out at the end of October. I know, Matthew, you're very excited
I'm
for
very
that.
excited. I'm excited about Daredevil, and I'm probably gonna watch both of them
Yeah.
in their entirety.
So for all of you people being like, man, when are you going to talk about that stuff? Just give us a minute, okay? Just a hot minute.
I feel like we should be happy about the fact that we're finally reviewing a good movie.
Are we, though?
Maybe.
Suspense.
Crap.
Who can trust who in these bad times at the El Royale?
Nice one. I see what you did there.
I like how you leaned back and it still ended up being loud.
It still ended up being loud. But yes, the crew and I should just say the crew. I don't know why I said the crew and I. The crew, we went to go see Bad Times at the El Royale. It just came out October 12th. It was directed by Drew Goddard. It was also written by Drew Goddard, who only directed one other film before this, and that was Cabin in the Woods. He also wrote that with Joss Whedon. The guy is famous for a lot of writing credits, including Daredevil Seasons 1 and 2. I don't know about 3, but he did help with the first 2 seasons. He wrote with The Martian. He helped write Cloverfield, and he did help write. There was one more.
One of
big
his upcoming projects, I think, for writing is The Sinister Six. Am I correct on that?
Really?
Is that on his IMDb?
Oh, yeah.
There
The
it is.
Sinister Six. Maybe that movie will be good
Heck
from
yeah.
Sony.
Ooh.
A
No,
good
because
Sony?
I watched a video. We shouldn't get caught up in this, so I'll make it brief. But I watched a video talking about how a guy had fun watching Venom, but still admitted that it was a bad film and said that he blames Avi Arad since he was the guy who basically told Sam Raimi, it's like, you gotta put Venom in the movie.
You gotta put Venom in the movie. The kids want Venom.
Kids want Venom.
I know, I've seen that interview.
Yeah, so.
That could be a whole separate topic we can talk about one
could.
day, where it's like producers interfering with projects.
Where it all went wrong.
Yeah, there we go. That's our segment. Where it all went wrong.
Oh,
Coming
I
to
could
you
get
in the
into that.
future when this show has more time to talk
Takes
about
off.
stuff.
Yeah.
But for right now, let's focus on the movie that we were talking about. Like I said, we saw Bad Times at the El Royale, and like I said, directed and written by Drew Goddard, very talented writer.
The question is, did we have a good time?
Yes, did we have a good time at the El Royale, or did we
Yeah.
have a bad time at the El Royale? Well, before we get into any of that, you probably want to know what the hell this movie is about. And the thing is that there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the plot of this movie. Oh my god. It's very Quentin Tarantino-esque, I would say.
It's got that, it's got a frame story element to it, which
Yeah.
a lot of people do like to attribute to Tarantino.
So
and I see why.
seven strangers show up at this hotel called the El Royale. It is a hotel between the states of Nevada and California, and you can stay either in Nevada or California. And the coolest thing about this hotel is the aesthetic look to it, is that if you stay on the Nevada side, it's more of a Vegas-style hotel. If you stay on the California side, it's bright and sunny like a California hotel. Well, when these seven strangers meet there, each of them has a secret to bury or something within their luggage that they're trying to hide. Each of them has a secret. And slowly, those secrets start to unravel, and you begin to learn what each person came to the El Royale for until, well, their paths intertwine, and, well, it's going to end in a bloodshed, basically. I don't want to reveal too much about the plot because, well, this is mostly a mystery thriller, I would say. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a revelation about one character pretty close to the beginning that we can't give away either because it's not advertised, and I think that's really cool that they kept it under wraps.
I'm about to ask you about that because I don't remember... I barely remember the trailers for this, other than being like, that cast looks awesome.
I saw the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw- yeah, I
where
saw-
Hemsworth shows up at the end.
Okay.
But I didn't see a lot of marketing material for this other than like a poster or two and the first trailer. But I'm surprised with the marketing that it didn't give a whole lot away, which is good for a mystery movie. Good for a movie in general. That's always a plus. And that's always not something you could pin on the director or the writer or anything with, because studios go do separate trailer houses to make their trailers. So that's way more of a studio-led thing than it is a director
There's
thing.
been plenty of times. Like, I remember Terminator Genesis came out, I think is what it was. And the director tweeted out the day that trailer came out, and he was like, do not watch that trailer. I did not mean for any of that to get out. And it was the reveal that John Connor was actually a T-1000 or something.
Yeah. It's part of a bunch of
It was like
stuff.
that was supposed to stay under wraps. And that could have been actually a really cool thing if, it didn't get leaked out to the public.
Yeah.
But the
By the
hotel,
studio.
the hotel's cast, I won't go into too much detail of who they are. I'll just give you a basic rundown. Jeff Bridges is in the movie. He plays a priest called Father Daniel Flynn. Cynthia Erivo, a recently up-and-coming actress, plays a singer named Darlene Sweet. Dakota Johnson is kind of this hippie girl who is very tough and brooding, named Emily Summerspring. John Hamm is this vacuum salesman who has the greatest pitch of all time when selling vacuums.
And he tells you all about how the El Royale is the finest place to stay.
Finest place to stay. His name is Dwight Broadbeck. And Chris Hemsworth plays Billy Lee, and I can't reveal too much about his character. There's also one other character as well that I won't reveal too much about. And we also have the bellboy, Louis Pullman. I've never seen this guy in anything, but he plays Miles Miller, who was the bellboy. To start off on a good note, I gotta say, this kid, I've never seen him before, but he did a great job with his character.
Holy crap, of all the people in this movie, it was both Cynthia, how do you pronounce her last name?
Erivo.
Erivo?
Yeah.
Cynthia Erivo and Louis Pullman definitely surprised me the most because I haven't seen them in anything else.
Yes, Cynthia Erivo hasn't been in too many things like I've been saying. She's been making small appearances in TV shows. She is coming up in that up-and-coming film from the director of 12 Years a Slave.
It's Widows, right?
Yeah, the movie about, widows trying to pull off this heist that their husbands were trying to do but died in the middle of doing it.
Yeah.
And then Louis Pullman... Once again, I mean, the guy's he has only 15 credits on his IMDb page. He was in The Strangers Pray at Night, which was a decent horror film. I think he was the son of the parents in that movie, so he was a main character.
He reminds me a lot of Tom Holland. I'm not quite sure why.
Maybe just the innocent look on
It's,
his
yeah,
face.
yeah, probably that.
But yeah, like I could totally see that. He's gonna be in Top Gun Maverick. I don't know who he's gonna be, but he's gonna be in the Top Gun sequel at least. But I gotta say, for two up and coming actors, I should say, going up against people who have been in the business for a while, such as Jeff Bridges, John Hamm, Chris Hemsworth. Even now, I can even safely say Dakota Johnson, while not having the best career track record with the 50 Shades movies, it was something. And she's been in some other stuff too, Black Mass and whatnot.
She's definitely like developing her career and like is a great actress.
Yes.
So.
And then there's Kaylee Spaney, who I won't give away who her character is, but once again,
she's so good.
She's very good. She is. I can say this. She is the sister to Dakota Johnson. I will not reveal any more than that.
I will say that she has maybe it's her eyes or something like that, but she reminds me a lot of Léa Seydoux, the French actress who is the Bond girl in Spectre.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she's also in Death Stranding, Hideo Kojima's new production.
That's right.
And she just has this very I'm trying to think how I want to say this. She has her performance is really good. It draws the eye.
Yeah,
she's
very hypnotic. You can say
she really steals the scene when she's on screen.
It's a demanding presence.
Yeah,
yes.
I think is.
The only thing that I remember seeing her in is a movie that came out earlier this year, Pacific Rim Uprising.
Right, I remember.
She was
not a great impression.
No, she was the main little girl in that movie that wanted to build her own Jaeger because she's an aspiring Jaeger pilot and whatnot. But
I did not see that movie, but I'm just so ashamed. I'm just so sad that that's what ended up coming of that such a great first film.
About it. But yes, and there's other people too. Nick Offerman was in the movie. I didn't even notice that was him.
Yeah, no, I like almost right away when he showed up. He like started moving around, and I think it was near the end of his little segment. Won't say what happens in the beginning.
Yeah,
which is when I realized, oh wait, holy crap, that's Nick Offerman.
But yeah, I mean, just having half your cast be a bunch of newbies, and then half your cast being a bunch of legends,
like top billing
top,
people.
not like close to A-list now, but like well-known actors, I would say, and everybody is on a great level. Everybody, like, they play well off one another, especially Cynthia Erivo and Jeff Bridges' character, Father Flynn and Darlene Sweet.
They have a great relationship together.
Yeah, they really do. They are the heart of this movie. Any scene that they're in together was probably my favorite scenes in the movie. They were just entertaining to watch and play off each other. I'm just going to say this right now, though. If you are interested in this movie at all, you've been looking at the advertising, you look at the cast, and you like Cabin in the Woods, I'm going to say, I think it's safe to say you should check out the movie. I'm not necessarily you're going to love it, like it, hate it, whatever it is. But if you are very interested in this movie, go see it. If you think it looks cool, it's captivating, it looks captivating to you and whatnot, go see it. Because I think in order to talk about this movie, we have to reveal minor spoilers. Stuff that if you don't know anything about this movie or, you didn't pay attention too much to the trailers, it would be cool to go in blind and be surprised at every twist and turn that this movie takes. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Because there is one character I want to talk about, and there is not much I could say without revealing.
Yeah, there is not a lot to say when you can't reveal them at all. And then other things I'll say real quick, and then if you want to keep everything under the rug and you don't want anything revealed, this movie's beautifully shot and it looks beautiful.
Every shot has a purpose in the film, and I like that. It's all really, really nicely done. Well, I say every shot has a purpose. I just say that every shot in this film, I don't think there was a single shot that I didn't like or that didn't do exactly what a mystery should do, which is keep me thinking, like, is this going to tie into play
Everything's
later?
very deliberate.
Oh, yeah. There's some really good shots of, people outside in the dark rain, and you have just neon signs lighting the scene, and it just looks so cool. It looks like Blade Runner, and I love the look of Blade Runner. So, anytime you can make it look like that, I just love neon lighting at night. I don't know what else more I can say, but this is your final warning. If you stick past this point, I'm going to spoil something for you because I want to get into a character that I really, really enjoyed in this movie.
Yeah.
This is your final warning. 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, did I love Jeff Bridges' character in this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges was really great in this, and I can pinpoint the exact moments where it went from being just this is a really likable Jeff Bridges character to this is a very emotional character.
Oh yeah,
And it's a very different Jeff Bridges character.
it really is.
It's a vulnerable one.
So Jeff Bridges, as I was saying during the non-spoiler section of this review, he plays a priest. At least that's what you think it is. It is slowly revealed that actually Jeff Bridges was a bank robber 10 years ago, and he's looking for money that his crew hid at the El Royale, and he's in search of it after serving 10 years in prison. And what's just fascinating about his character is, one, his backstory. He, out of all, like, throughout the film, whenever they cut to a character, and it's like, we're going to tell you about this person's backstory. The cool thing about this, it's like an old film grain, an old film title, and it just says room, and in whatever room they're staying in within the El Royale. And that tells you about the character's backstory. His was probably my favorite. I love the way the opening shot of it with just money flying all over the place. It's snowing. I was like, it reminded me a lot of the opening heist of Grand Theft Auto 5. Just from the way it looked, and just like the camaraderie between just like the short camaraderie you got between his like little gang that
His
he
like
robbed.
crew of 3 people.
Yeah, that he robbed it with.
It reminded me of the opening of Layer Cake with Daniel Craig.
That's actually another good one.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah. And I thought like his backstory was interesting. And as Matthew was saying, just his him as a character too. Like he's not like a terrible person. Like I mean he robs banks for a living. He's a criminal, but he's just like, look, I'm not here to kill anybody. I just want my money and I'm just going to leave. That's about it, guys. And the scenes with Cynthia Erivo, who is just this singer that, is just looking for a big break and just happens to stumble across this hotel full of criminal activity. And like, he's just like, look, stick with me. We'll make it through the night. And you know what? I'll even split the pot with you if you help me get out of here.
Yeah. And that's a good way of setting up the dynamic from there. Because they shared some rapport before then, but then it's solidified in that moment, and they become this dynamic duo for the rest of the film.
Yeah,
which is cool. They have great chemistry together.
Yeah, so there's very much sort of there's the different groups. At various times, it's a big cast, and as all of the chaos unfolds, the characters eventually, whether they are accomplices willing or not, or just happen to be stuck together by virtue of the insanity which they have fallen victim to, it's interesting watching kind of the interplay of, where they are in regards to this one location that supersedes the entire film. I also thought that, so it does something that I love. It neatly segments like pretty much a lot of the parts of the film. Not too much, but it kind of, we've been comparing it to Tarantino. It does the whole thing, with the title cards, like we go to the different rooms that they're all in.
Like in Pulp Fiction or even Hateful Eight, you can compare it to.
Which is great, and I love that type of stuff because I can't quite describe what it's like. This is a good way. It's basically like turning the page and seeing the next chapter in a book. That's
a perfect way to describe it.
Person who I think does that, not better, but like a more literal like book storytelling way of doing that is Wes Anderson, because especially in something like the Royal Tenenbaums, like each chapter, it flips a page and you see the dialogue and like actual action for people on the page as it's happening in the next shot, which is not the exact same thing that happens here, but is that frame story element that we were referring to where it's segmented. It has a clear introduction and it's a clear section or act or whatever you want to call it dedicated to that character and dedicated to developing.
Yeah.
And what I like is that so there are the multiple perspectives of how the way it decides to tell its story. It doesn't do what some films do, where you show a certain course of events and then switch back and forth between different people's perspectives of those same events. Like there are movies that do that, but what they usually do is they go all the way to the very beginning. As soon as they go to the next character's perspective. Bad Times doesn't do that. What they do is there's been meticulous thought put into making sure that they don't really waste your time too much. So that way, when they do switch to another character's perspective and they have to kind of go back in time a little bit, they don't go too far back, because whatever we
it all
see,
revolves around one event,
the whole
build up to it. You get the build up from each perspective, or not from each perspective, all at once from every character, but then
Yeah.
you get a dedicated, okay, this is how the event happened from this person's point of view, which
and
I'm in love with. I love that.
And for instance, like there's an instance in which one character kind of discovers a method by which people might be getting spied on in this hotel. And so we see what a lot of people are doing by their lonesome. And I was thinking to myself, it's like, oh, so I imagine that when we switch perspectives, I'm going to see them doing it, but from their perspective.
Yeah.
But we didn't, because we didn't really need to, because apparently there wasn't anything worth telling in that scene, and anything that was, like, necessary was implied and retroactively, like, confirmed later. So it's a film that doesn't really waste a lot of your time going through that type of, going from story to story. And perspective to perspective, and giving you those backstories.
Another thing this movie does a great job by doing that kind of storytelling is that within the first half, I mean, it builds a really good mystery.
It's very solid.
You are in the movie. You are on board with it. You're like, as slowly as one character is discovering what is behind the scenes at the hotel, and then slowly he's seeing stuff within each room. You're just like, why is that person doing this? Why is she doing that? Who is that in that person's room? And you're just like, okay, this is a great way to start your movie and just slowly watch everything unfold. And that's a key word here too, is slowly, because like I said, the dialogue is very Quentin Tarantino-esque, I would say, and had the pacing of everything where it's like scenes go on for long periods of time because it's like watching actually two characters interact. Well, is everything they're talking about in the scene actually important? No, but it's developing their character, and it's just one, and two, it's just, it feels more real. You're making these characters feel more grounded as like scenes are going on. Especially, like I said, with Jeff Bridges and Cynthia Erivo is where they do this a lot. And with them being the heart of the movie, it's necessary. Anything you guys want to jump in on?
So I have kind of like my list of the four people who I think were exceptional.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, let's do favorite characters.
Favorite characters. So we have Cynthia Erivo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as Darlene Sweet. So she's probably my favorite character just because I felt like, as a protagonist, she really impressed me, and I haven't seen her in a lot of stuff. So I mean, seeing her just knock it out of the park here was really something awesome.
And having an amazing singing voice too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she's very good at it.
Jeff Bridges, of course. I just loved their interactions. The moments when he seemed vulnerable really deepened him as a character for me.
Yes.
I've said Kaylee Spiney. I don't know how to pronounce that, but
Spiney.
As Rose Summer Spring, again, like I said, commanding presence. And yeah, Lewis Pullman as Miles Miller was a very surprising performance. And I think that's actually my favorite thing about the characters in this film, is that every character, with the exception of like Chris Hemsworth and some of his like crew, which I'll get to that later when we kind of talk about him, but I feel like every character at the end of the film, by the end of their arcs, was totally different in my eyes from how they started out.
Oh yeah. No, yeah,
Every single one of
when you first meet these characters and you're just like, oh, you're thinking they're going to play these types. By the end of the movie, it's like, my favorite thing is because a character also takes off a piece of them, I guess.
Yes.
And it kind of made me go, it's almost like saying near the end of this movie, it's like each character is almost losing something of themselves, showing that like how much has changed since the beginning of the events of this movie within one night. And it's like each character, if you look at them, they're losing one part of themselves. And I was like, I wonder if that was like, just some like, deep filmmaking right there, some philosophy filmmaking. Yeah. But I mean, it was something that just caught my eye because, at the end of this movie, I mean, when you get to the dramatic climax, I won't ruin it, but when the characters are lined up and you see what each of them is left with, it's like, oh wow, yeah, they are completely different. And from the beginning of this movie till now.
And because it's understandable, because like when I've done a lot of planning for like stuff that I'd like to write, and what I did was I tried to think like, how do I want my characters to start and how do I want them to end?
Yeah.
And this was just like, this was that times 10. I loved it. Just like they clearly all completed their very interesting character arcs, and I really liked them. Chris Hemsworth, I have some opinions on it because he seems to transcend that theme, and I do like him. I do think that it was interesting.
He gave a good performance.
He did give a good performance. But it's interesting. I think beyond this point, I think I might end up being a bit more critical of the film.
Okay, Chris,
But-
you got any characters
Yeah,
you
no.
want to talk about?
My two favorite characters being Jeff Bridges' father Daniel and Louis Pullman as Miles Miller.
Yeah.
Both of those characters surprised me a lot. Because for Father Daniel, like, yeah, I could tell, like, he's probably not a priest, and then that became true. So I'm like, hey, found that out myself. But just the actual character, not even of like the identity, just him in this Jeff Bridges role. Whenever I see Jeff Bridges, I always think it's going to be the curmudgeon old man, and he's very weary and wisecracky. Whereas this character that Jeff Bridges is playing is vulnerable and broken, and is almost losing himself in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to give that little detail away about him.
I don't think it's necessary. I think yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's just that the dynamic, that the struggle that he has with himself is just such a refreshing thing to see with. I'm not knocking Jeff Bridges at all, but I'm just saying, like, seeing him in that role is surprising and cements that, holy crap, he does a really good job of, like, showing, like, real, like, not emotion, like real, like, vulnerability.
It's also good just to see Jeff Bridges do another performance where he doesn't sound like this around half the movie, and you can't understand him,
Oh,
like in
God.
R.I.P.D. or in True Grit.
Oh
yeah.
my
Like, even though I
God.
love the True Grit remake, he was like impossible to understand in that movie.
Oh no, let me tell you something. I saw that movie once. I barely remember any of it.
True Grit or IPD?
True Grit. I barely remember any of it. And there's just the entire opening scene, the introduction of your character in that film, and we're gonna have him in a courtroom talking to a bunch of other old men with beards, and he's gonna be. I can't even like make a joke as to what they were saying because I have no idea what that conversation was about at all.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the point of that scene was in the movie. I'm getting angry now.
No, yeah, it was cool to see Jeff Bridges play this character
Yes.
because, like, you know, lately, the only other movie I could think where he comes this close is Crazy Heart. Otherwise, I mean, like, you know, he's either playing something similar to the dude from Big Lebowski, or you just can't understand him because he's doing his southern accent like
He
a
was
True
also
Grit.
Really good in Hell or High Water.
I have
don't know
not
if you saw that
seen
one.
Hell or High
That
Water.
one was really good because he plays. It's kind of like the wisecracky Jeff Bridges role, but by the end of it, he's such a developed and like different character because
Okay.
of what another character does to one of his friends. It's a very good development. Like, having a developed character is something I care deeply about. A character that changes over time. I mean, that's not. That shouldn't be much to ask for, I suppose. And so that's kind of a low standard or a low question to ask. But I mean, that's always appreciated. And he just feels like this friendly old man, and this like friendly, kind-hearted, but also out for himself kind of guy, which is like really cool and really three-dimensional. I also loved, like, oh my God, I think he is my favorite character, Miles Miller.
Let's get into who Miles Miller is, because before I get into my favorite characters, Miles is also one of them for me as well. And I think it's just because, like how innocent he is, but like how much history he has with the hotel itself.
How much history
because
he
the
has and
hotel
how-
itself is basically a character in this movie.
It's yes, the way they introduce Miles, you think he's like the comedic relief. He is just this nervous, shy. Easily could have been played. Yeah, Bellboy easily could have been played by Michael Cera or somebody else or Tom Holland, and it's like it's the cute little nervous shy boy. But you see more about this character, and maybe wasn't delivered in the best way. But once you like contextualize his whole character and reestablish Miles, he is a deeply troubled individual.
Oh yeah,
and is. For that is like my favorite character because of how four-dimensional he feels.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could just add an interval onto D and say that's being called deep instead of 3D, 4D, 5D.
But yeah, like just how much history he has with the place. Because, I mean, like throughout the film, he's telling people, like, you know, when they're like, you know, what's happening in this hotel? You know, what are you doing here? He's like, look, you understand, man, the stuff I've seen. I've seen stuff. I can't even tell you what I've seen. It's been like, I mean, he starts breaking down. He's like freaking out, and he's just like, look, I just want you guys just to take your rooms and leave me alone, okay? I just want to be left alone for the rest of the night. Management tells me what I need to do for the day, and that's about it. Like, he is always just paranoid. It always looks like he's sweating, but it just adds so much mystery to his character. And then when you find out what his character actually is.
There's a condition to him, and then on top of that, there's a reason as to why he got to that point.
Exactly that. You summarized it up perfectly right there. Matthew, I know you like Miles as well. Anything you want to add in?
No, you guys have pretty much summed it up perfectly. The guy is the very thesis of my point earlier about how the characters just change by the end of the film.
Oh yeah.
And I always try to look for like what's the film trying to say, and I think it's at the end, and then failing that, I just end up coming to the conclusion that it's just trying to tell me a bunch of stories about a bunch of different characters, and I'll be along for the ride because it's a really good film. But yeah, that part about how every character in this film kind of becomes different by the end is something that's really, really cool. And if you are into that type of thing, I think you're gonna have a wonderful time with this movie.
Last thing I want to mention, we can get a little bit more critical from here if you guys want to get into some problems you had with the film and whatnot, but I was kind of hinting at it at the beginning, but I love the way this hotel looks. I love it. It's probably my favorite. Favorite thing about this movie is probably the El Royale
production
itself.
design.
Oh yeah, the set itself is. If you love, and I know Chris, you love it, but the Fallout aesthetic.
Oh yeah. No, this was a little guilty pleasure for that. This is a little bit of an indulgence, I should say.
Yeah, like seeing like the little like vending machines, like the sandwich-o-matic and like stuff like that.
Exactly,
it was just like, oh, I love this kind of stuff. Also, if you love oldies, I mean, this film is filled with oldies, and then also just classic rock near the end of the movie. But I mean, just the music, it really brought that whole 1960s vibe, 1970s vibe. I think it only takes place in the 60s, though, right?
I've heard conflicting things. I think the only concrete year I've heard is from some article said it was 1969. Although there was, and I'm being like super like detailed about it, there is a segment where you see on television Richard Nixon talking because it takes place in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
So Nixon is president, and he's talking about Vietnam and a ceasefire, not the ceasefire in 73, but he's talking about the potential of one, and he's saying how that's not likely because it's guerrilla warfare, so it's probably a few years before the end of Vietnam. So I think the site that's correct would be 1969.
Okay.
Is what most sources say.
I was going to say, because, I mean, if you look at the soundtrack, which this does have a pretty good soundtrack, Deep Purple's in it, and I was like, okay, so this has got to be late 60s at this point then.
Yeah.
But yeah, last thing I'll mention is some of my favorite characters in this movie is, I'm kind of with everybody else. I did like Darlene Sweet a lot. I love Jeff Bridges' character as Father Flynn. I also really liked Dakota Johnson's character. I actually really liked her a lot because, I mean, one, I was just really happy to see that she actually did really good in this movie because after coming off the beginning of this year of 50 Reed, I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's nice that
here.
she's getting more roles and different stuff by better directors and different series.
I was gonna say it's good to see her actually like her fellow cast members, not feel uncomfortable around them because of scenes they have to do together. She really does a good job here, and my favorite thing about her was just how tough she was, and like I think it's funny because she's a hippie. But like she's probably the most badass character
of the characters we're first introduced to is probably the most violent.
Oh yeah. Like even at points where like you have a criminal like Jeff Bridges and he sees something from her go down and he's just like, I'm out of here. Screw this. I'm
gonna go.
Like, yeah, I'm just gonna walk the other way now. I'm not gonna be nowhere near her. As for John Hamm, he was good. It was just that I think everybody else kind of outshines him.
He had an interesting character arc.
Yes,
he did.
For what he had a character arc where I was like, I like that guy. I liked just the way even he had that sort of arc where it's like you think you know who he is, and because I'd seen another trailer, I think the second trailer where parts of like his real true nature were kind of hinted at. Well, still, and then that's actually what sold me on it because I was like, ooh, I like this type of thing.
Yeah.
Where he's
I did not see that trailer either.
That was the first trailer I ever saw of the film, and and taking as someone who has different standards on like what is a spoiler and what isn't. So like his whole deal. And we've already kind of established we're going to go into minor spoilers. So, like, I won't say exactly, but it's like he puts on kind of a facade, and then very quickly we kind of realize, like, oh, okay, so he's actually this type of character. This is interesting. And then there's like the aesthetics just surrounding what he does as like were really cool for me because of like the types of films I'm into. Like I grew up on James Bond films and stuff like that. Like I remember the scene, one of my favorite scenes. I think it was this Goldfinger. One of the first Bond films I ever saw when he's just sweeping his hotel room for like bugs and
They
stuff.
also spend a lot of time with John Hamm near the beginning.
Yes.
It
you
think he's actually the main character.
That's
at the beginning.
that's exactly how I felt. I thought he was going to be the leading man in this because of that. We find out that's not so much the case. That role goes more to Darlene and Father Daniel. But his whole character arc, the Laramie vacuum cleaner salesman, is the that is a double-edged sword for me because that was, I thought, really cool and awesome, and I wanted to see more of, but also super annoying because it kind of doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
and
that's probably as you were saying.
I wanted to see more of is because he does a fantastic performance as this character and like his true nature and his motives. And who he's like working for. There's this there are two like backgrounds for the El Royale and like another third party that they allude to all the time. They always allude to management. They always allude to Washington. They always allude to what's on this film.
Yeah.
And I think the point is that we don't ever learn about that stuff is because it doesn't actually matter.
Right.
It felt like, you know what it reminded me of is by the end of his like whole plot line where like, you know, the parties that he's involved with and the fact that like by the end of the movie, like you realize how much of, you know, his storyline didn't really matter to the overall like story at the end. It reminded me of the briefcase from Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like,
that's the film reminds me of that a lot.
Yeah,
because as soon as I saw they introduced the film reel, I thought, is this going to be like a suitcase situation where like they're like, holy crap, it's this, and we don't ever find out what it is.
Yeah. Because there's an item similar to the briefcase from Pulp Fiction in this movie where it's like a character discovers it. They're like, oh my god, I need to get this out of here. This is very important. And slowly it just becomes like just this item that is fascinating to everybody, but we never learn what it is. And like, you know, it's just a thing that you can theorize with the time period that they're in. And learning of what the El Royale actually is.
I have a theory on who's on the tape.
You can tell us after.
Okay. I'll write down 3 letters and then I'll let you see what you think about that.
So while you're doing that, I wanna talk about, because this is where the problems for me kind of come into the picture. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh crap. All right. Well, oh, that is good. But see, that again, that's another thing. My whole thing with this film is that it seems like I was asking myself if this film was more of a thriller than it was necessarily a mystery. Because when I think mystery, I think that there is
a whodunit.
It's kind of a whodunit, or maybe there's just one particular incident, or you know, a variety of there's a term called a standalone complex, which is basically a variety of seemingly standalone events that all stem from a source that may or may not have ever existed. And I feel like a lot of mysteries kind of like have like this event at the core, and people are like, I want to find out what the heck is behind this. And then they find something larger that they're trying to do.
Do you say that for the film reel, or do you say that for the beginning scene?
I'm saying this as an observation of what typically mystery films do.
All right, and why do you think it's different here?
It's just because I was trying to think like, okay, so what the thing that the characters were trying to solve, and then I realized, okay, so it all stems from...
It's more along the lines that they're trying to leave.
They're trying to leave because of a series of crazy events of all of their character arcs, all their different motivations. This is why it's more of a character-based thriller than necessarily a mystery, because they're all clashing, and then because of all of their clashing motivations, they find themselves in uncomfortable positions where they can't necessarily leave. So there was, you know, John Hamm's character, his whole thing, his whole arc really revolved around kind of a mystery of itself, a mission that he's on of sorts.
Finding out what's going on at the El Royale.
Was that it?
I like I said, I mean, it's something that's not really fully developed.
Exactly, it's not really fully developed, because I feel like
That's as much as what I was able to pick up on.
The way I interpret his character, and I'm going to, again, it's really hard to do this without spoiling stuff. We
might have to do our first spoiler discussion on Variety Viso with this movie.
We might. But the way I interpreted his character is that his position in life was sort of, and the consequence, and the way that his way of life kind of directed him, and the way that he kind of went against that and said, no, I'm going to do what I want because I think that what I'm going to do is right. That's what we were supposed to take away from his arc. Because
and it's what ends up compromising.
And it's what ends up compromising him. So I thought that was what made him an interesting character. But there's all this stuff about like, well, why were his employers interested? And then again, there's all the implications about management. You know, the trailer I saw, I remember there being like a mention of management. I'm like, and because this is the guy who directed Cabin in the Woods,
and
right?
wrote it. Yeah.
I thought it was going to take that route.
Man, I really thought so too. I was waiting for it to like be meta.
Because you have all this stuff. You have all of the characters with their competing motivations. You have Chris Hemsworth character as this sort of antagonist who's going to come and he's like the embodiment of chaos. And then I thought that there was going to be some other entity that comes into play, something higher than, say, Miles Miller, that would then kind of be another conflict within it. But and I'm trying to think of as to whether or not any of this really detracted from the film too much. Not necessarily, because again, the character arcs in this film are really strong. It's just I tend to like stuff like this is a big jump, but I really love John Wick. Because that was a film that, in addition to being this really nice and tight, concise character story, that was also one of the best action films of the last decade. It, in addition to that, went the extra mile, and we're going to build a world. Something I realized about myself not too long ago
Especially in that sequel.
Exactly. And something I realized about myself not too long ago is that the things that excite me in films, because everybody has certain things that excite them about films more than any other element of the experience of watching a story. For me, it's the little tiny details that build the world. Stuff that to other people might not seem interesting, might even seem boring.
Inconsequential.
It's stuff like, like the protocol by which characters behave, the functions, almost the politics of how a world operates. And having those types of aesthetics here, I was expecting more of them to dig into that stuff a bit more. So, but despite it being a, expectation versus reality type thing, I can't necessarily say that it's anything that made my enjoyment of it less so. I still walked out of that theater going like, I really liked those characters, and I really liked how that movie ended. And maybe they could have found a way to but they still had certain components there that were underutilized. And if they had found a way to take those components, work them into the plot as well, and still kind of give me that resolution, I felt like the journey would have been a bit more fulfilling by the end.
That's strange how you say that, because I do also like the element of world building in movies, and I felt like here it was touched on a lot. And this is my biggest, I guess, criticism of the movie, and it's strange how I was just looking at articles about it today, not to form an opinion, but to just see what other people were thinking. And there was an interview with the director, and he says something about like, yeah, it's all about setup and payoff. And I actually felt like there wasn't a lot of payoff. The thing. Is that a lot of elements were set up, especially the first scene of the movie, what the movie opens up with, and then there's a title card.
Yeah.
They set that up. And that's like the embodiment of this criticism, and it doesn't pay off a lot. We see it with Hemsworth's character. We see it with the beginning scene. We see it with management and who John Hamm's character is working for, and the film reel. I know most of that is probably intentionally left to the wayside and doesn't have clarity. Am I thinking of clarity, or it doesn't have a resolution intentionally, but it's still frustrating to think about, I guess. That may be intentional, it might not be. That's just how I felt about it.
It definitely bothered me. Not all of them, but some of them. Like I'm gonna say right now, when you find out what the Royale actually is, it was a little bit disappointing, and it's really disappointing that it's revealed halfway through the movie, because you're just like, all right, well, is there more to this, or is it actually just this.
It's implied. Like, I mean, it's straight up stated that there is more to it. That there's someone else. They specifically mention a different state. They're like, it goes there, but we don't ever see the man behind the curtain. What the purpose of the El Royale is.
Yeah, and even like we were saying with John Hamm's character, which that could be all left. Whatever that might have been intentional, but even that felt like. Once you get revealed like who he is and like what he was gonna do and everything, it is a little bit like, damn, I would have loved to learn more about this.
That's why I felt
the biggest waste to me though is Chris Hemsworth in this movie.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth's character is an odd. The premise is okay, and I like it because he's definitely of a Charles Manson personality cult.
Yes.
I think he leads. But it doesn't really go anywhere.
No, it feels like a whole separate movie walked into this movie. Like it just walked up on its set.
That's a great way of explaining it. Yeah.
When he shows up, I remember checking my phone like, hold on, how long have I been sitting here? Now we're gonna learn about him? And I was just like,
yeah, no, it feels like there's a whole movie attached to this one with Chris Hemsworth.
It felt like like you were saying, it's a Charles Manson type of character, and like when he's introduced, it's like the only people that really have connections to him are two characters in this movie. I won't reveal who they are. Mm-hmm. But two of the characters in this movie have a connection to him that I feel like if the movie was edited in a different way, it would have felt more organic for him to show up at the end. But when he shows up at the end, you're just kind of like, okay, what the hell? No, we're almost done wrapping up here. I want to learn more about the Royale. I want to learn more about Miles. I want to learn more about Father Flynn. But no, he comes in and now like 20 minutes is all dedicated to him and like his backstory, and then he just takes control of the plot from there.
Mm-hmm. I think so. I was thinking about that, and I think the reason that it's like I said earlier. Everybody, all the main cast, 6 of the 7 strangers, because again, the trailer I watched, it was like 7 strangers, and Chris Hemsworth was one of them. Mm-hmm. I think the other 6 are. I feel like they shouldn't have even included him in that description as one of the 6 people,
right? Yeah.
Because to me, he is a force of nature that was meant so that we could have the conclusion to. The sisters, that their character arc, because Dakota Johnson's character, and I really kind of fell for it because at first you meet her and you have a certain implication about her, and then you further begin to think like, oh my god, what's wrong with this person, and then by the end you're like, oh well, now I'm starting to kind of realize
closure. That was also the word I was looking for.
It's closure to her character arc.
Makes you like her a lot more too.
Yeah, and in a way,
and sympathize.
He's this force of nature that comes on. And I'm sure there's some. I feel like there's some way to look at his addition into the film
because he
that
almost
kind of
they detail his background too, and he kind of says his motives, but there's not a lot of reason behind it or logic behind it. It's more along the lines of what is good and bad, who decides it. And I don't care, which sounds cool, but that's as much as it's really explained.
That idea seems perfect for a movie like this, where you have these, dark figures, these criminals, and like these people that are hiding something in a hotel, and the hotel itself is also hiding something. It feels like a perfect idea to bring that in. It's just brought in too late, and when it's brought in, stuff that was happening in the movie before that is not resolved.
It feels like the movie has to take a break to introduce.
Yeah, it was like it really like slowed things down. It halted for me. Like it was like, okay, now I feel like we're stepping into a whole different movie. Which, like I said, I feel like if he was edited into the film a lot earlier on, and God, I swear to God, if there was a director's cut out there of this movie, I would love to see it.
Same.
Because like even though I'm complaining about the movie's length. It's just because the second half had like these issues that I'm talking about that made me really start feeling the length of the film. And I was like, oh man, now I'm really feeling like I'm actually sitting here for a while, where like the first half was great build up.
Because the first 2 acts, I would say, are very well paced, slow burn revelations about each characters. But then you actually like it definitely starts to be a feeling by the time Chris Hemsworth shows up, because now we have to take a break and talk about his character and how he's affecting all these other ones, and how it basically hypocritical he is to his own standards, which also is I think is deliberate. I'm pretty sure is a deliberate
Yeah,
thing.
I would love to
reason why.
rewatch. I'd love to rewatch the film and kind of analyze how his ideology and perhaps his own contradiction to that ideology ties into how the movie resolves. Because that might actually, for me, fix the problems I have with his character. Because, you know, like I said, you know, I've said that he's kind of a force of nature in the plot. His whole like relation to I can't believe I'm forgetting character names. Darlene at a certain point kind of calls him out on a sort of him
and there's
being contradictory.
I think it's supposed to be a contemporary parallel as well.
Yeah, and so if anything, and which is once again is a further tension added to kind of push Darlene to develop even more than she already had, and to kind of like really finish her character arc. That's kind of the moment that was her shining moment, honestly, in a lot of ways, and it's a great scene. And if you watch it, it's just like this. Yes, bitch. Like,
Thank God,
yeah.
bitch is a word that we can say on this podcast.
I love that. But yeah, no, that's definitely I love that, and I love the way that resolves her character arc, but it's still the big issue. And if that's a deliberate choice, that is one I could come to appreciate, that that Chris Hemsworth character, Billy Lee, I think is his name, is this megalomaniac, hypocritical, God complex character, which I can get behind, like I said, but if he was not really even alluded to, just like developed earlier on and mentioned a little more prior to when he shows up, I feel like could have been a bit more organic.
Because they hint at him, the sister characters.
because
we see him
We
at
have
one
a bit of a flashback.
We see him in one flashback. And it's like he seems like just a normal guy that like is just trying to cheer
that's
up
the
one of the
thing.
girls.
Also, that might be this. So they may. So
it's
in
not
the
a good
director's-
reflection of his character.
No.
Yeah.
And then just throughout the movie, Dakota Johnson's character keeps saying, "We got to get as far away from him as possible. I need to fix you, Rosie. I need to take you away from him." Because, you know, not to get into too many things, but Rosie is like attracted to him. Once again, the whole Charles Manson thing, where she is just all about him, while Dakota Johnson is kind of like, "Yo, I want my sister to be okay."
But yeah, so the director may have seen that as, because when you first see Dakota Johnson's character, I had no reason to trust her at all. You really don't have reason to trust her. If anything, you know, it would have been interesting if they really tried to hype Chris Hemsworth's character up as being like almost maybe a hero of sorts. So that way, when it did get revealed that he was in fact like an antagonist,
that would have been a nice little twist.
Because then wouldn't it would fit perfectly with what I said earlier, that every character, that by the end of the film they're a completely different person.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the running theme of this film.
I like that idea.
That would have
really
been
cool.
great.
Let's remake the movie.
Yeah, but because of the way it was marketed, like even in the trailer, Chris Hemsworth shows up.
Is this wild card that
he's
shows
dancing in the rain, and it's just like that's like.
Okay,
I love
villain.
that.
You're the villain.
Yeah, and I believe me, I love you. I'm gonna eat it up while you're on screen, and
He is so happy he's not wearing that cape or swinging that hammer like the entire time of this
he
movie.
walked through that dang field without a shirt on, just kind of doing his little shimmy and stuff.
He's got a good American accent.
He does.
He does. Ugh. That attractive son of
The one thing, because one of my friends was asking me about this, and like she was like, "Do you think I would actually be able to sit through it and like not mind it?" I'm like, you know what? For a person like you, maybe. I'm like, I don't know if like slow burn movies, because this is a slow burn. And just like the fact that I didn't like, you know, really like some of the resolutions of things, I didn't know how she would feel about it. But what I told her was, I'm like, here's the thing though, the last act, Chris Hemsworth is shirtless throughout the entire thing. So, you know, if you're into that, you at least get that with your third act.
If you want your world rocked by that man's chest, go see Bad Times at the El Royale.
I love that you had a religious experience to Chris Hemsworth on screen. I was gonna say that you said recommending films to people. I was thinking about that for this one too, because it's not like a casual watch. I would say.
It's not.
Like there are like really good movies that I wouldn't recommend purely because like it's a lot to digest, and like those.
A Star is Born is something I could be like, yeah, go see it. It's really good.
Yes, that I think is like a really great movie, and one that I think that could probably win some Oscars this year. But
definitely.
is a casual watch. It's definitely like easily digestible.
Yeah, anybody can pick up and watch that movie.
And then there are other movies where that's not the case, and I wouldn't recommend it, but are still good. and then it goes the other way, casual watches, but like it's clearly not an art form. And then I think there are even a few that fall into like it's trying to be an art form, but is also kind of crappy, like Crash. It probably comes to mind for that one.
Tree of Life.
Yeah.
But this definitely falls into that, like,
is it casual watch?
It's not a casual watch. If you're used to Tarantino films, like you've seen all Tarantino films, you've seen Seven Psychopaths and Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. You've seen those kind of movies where it's slow burns. You're just watching characters interact. You're watching stuff unfold. You might like this movie. Even with some of the resolutions, by the end, you might walk out and say, you know what? I don't get too many of these films like this.
I think we mentioned something like this where there are like good bad movies and bad good movies. This is I don't want to like say smart movie as in like, oh, I'm a smart person. I watch smart
this
movies.
movie's too smart for
but,
you.
I would definitely call it, I guess, like a casual smart watch, I guess.
Sure.
Because like I guess there are like smart-ish movies and like casual movies. If this falls and like it's for
hard.
that yeah, it's hard to
It's hard
pin
because
down.
it's like you think about film buffs might actually enjoy this, and then you think about the casual audience, will they enjoy this? So it's hard to really recommend. I'm going to give it a grade, and that's just how I feel about it. But when it comes to my friends who, you know, they've seen Tarantino films and they like them, but they've seen copycat Tarantino films and they just weren't on board with some of them. So it's like this one, it's kind of up in the air for me when it comes to recommending it for them, because it's like it has an amazing cast and they're all great, but it also has some things with the plot that I feel are, you know,
also like just slow it down.
and it's just slow down, and some things with the plot that are not really resolved all the way that they might not find really like
consequential.
Okay, like they might be at the end like, okay, what was the point of that? What was the point of this? It's really a hard film to recommend.
It's not one of those situations where it lacks some sort of deep thematic quality that causes critics to like criticize it and for audiences but to still love it because it's all there. For this, I think that it kind of it's one that I can totally see it being divisive among both critics and audiences because of that. Not because it does anything particularly awful, just because it lacks a couple.
It just doesn't do
of things.
much. Is the thing.
It doesn't do much. I was trying to think like, what can I get out of this film that I can't get anywhere else? And I don't usually like thinking about that because originality is not something that I feel like I don't want to criticize things for not being original, because there's only so many types of movies that can be made. And when there is an original idea, I like it. But for me, I tend to think of like people should just aim to try and mix and match different elements to make what is originality. And so I would say, I mean, I loved this film for just that dynamic of between the characters and the fact that there were you know exactly what scene I'm talking about, but there were scenes in this film where it would just be these long, drawn out scenes, and at the end of it, screen goes black, and Joe hears me go.
Yeah, there was one scene
exhale.
where I thought one character was about to die, and I was sitting there the entire time at the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, if you kill this character off, I'm gonna be so pissed.
Yeah, no.
But you know what this and we were talking about like how, like, you know, we would recommend this, and literally I was just thinking of the other film Drew Goddard directed and wrote was Cabin in the Woods, which is
That's
another
a very
film.
meta film.
It's another film where it's like, I saw that with my dad, and my dad hated it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because if you know that movie, you know the twist of it.
I know the twist of it, sadly, without having seen it.
Oh,
but
really?
Yeah, but it's because it's one of those movies where it's like the twist is such a big part of the experience.
It is.
It's just you're destined to get spoiled for it if you don't see it.
It's like Chris loves movies, you love movies. I would be like, no, you gotta watch Cabin in the Woods because, like, I can't give it away.
It's less of
it's a love letter to horror films.
It's a love letter, but it's also a criticism. It's like a conflicted love letter, and I like that a lot.
And it's like, I can recommend that to people as long as I preface it with, it's a love letter to horror films, and like it also acknowledges a lot of cliches in horror films and whatnot. It's a horror film that's making fun of the genre while also being its own thing, and it's a ton of fun, especially by the end of it.
Yeah.
It's a movie I love, and I have to recommend it that way. And it's like, this is one of those movies, it's like, I liked it, but I also have to preface it with some problems and just some things I gotta warn anybody who's a casual viewer when they're about to watch it.
I will definitely say it's a movie I would like to see again, for purely enjoyment.
Oh yeah,
Like,
this is definitely gonna come on HBO, and I plan on watching it again.
Yeah, no, it's not one that I would have to see because like it gives me such a cathartic experience because like it has a compelling message and a timely message, but it's definitely one. Not even I'm not calling it like a popcorn movie or anything like that. It's definitely just purely entertaining. It's amazing to watch. Beautiful cinematography.
Yeah.
Points. Some of those long takes, especially the long take with it was Darlene singing in the hotel as Father Daniel is doing something else. I won't spoil it, but doing something else.
That scene is so good.
That is a really clever scene. I guess that's a word I'd use to describe the movie. It's definitely clever in a lot of things.
You guys ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think so.
I'd say so.
Okay, yeah. For me, I mean, like I said, I love the first half of this movie. This movie had me within the first half, and just with some resolutions to characters and some reveals being almost revealed at the halfway point, and you're just kind of like, well, what else does this movie have to offer at this point? And just some things are drawn out, I think, in my opinion. And then, of course, the Chris Hemsworth character, which I feel comes in way too late and just didn't feel right when he entered the film. It just didn't. It felt like a whole separate movie came in to the El Royale. Like, it just literally barged in and took over the set and just was like, we're making my movie now.
Yeah.
Other than that, I know my grade might seem like a bad thing, but it's really not. I really recommend this movie. I did enjoy it. And you know what? Over time, too, it could be even higher than what it is.
Yeah.
For me, it's a B-. I really liked it, though. It's just, it's a good B-. Like, it's like, if you want to put a percentage on it, an 82 for me, an 81. Yeah. Like, if you want to get, like, you know, exact. But for me, it's a B-. If it had a stronger second half, then the Chris Hemsworth character showed up, I probably would have been like, okay, you know, that character was okay, and his like whole third act thing felt a little bit like every other like thriller out there where, you know, it's like, oh, I'm crazy, I'm gonna tie you all up and do crazy stuff now. It's just like, if that would have happened just within the third act, I would have been like, okay, you know what, fine, whatever. It would have been a higher grade, but because like, you know, some stuff happens at the halfway point, and then you have that enter in the third act. It did drag it down to me, but it's still something I did enjoy. It made me walk out and go, I'm still going to I still like this movie, and I still think it's good because this is a nice breath of fresh air that we get every once in a while with movies. Matthew?
You know what? I'm going to, once again, I really like the characters. I think that there was some really great potential there. I feel like with more watching it again and further kind of analyzing Chris Hemsworth's character, I might find to enjoy his introduction, his whole arc in the film a bit more. And at the end of the day, it is a film about people with all sorts of crazy crap going on in their lives who then turn out to be a lot more complex than you first give them credit for.
Yeah.
And I think at a certain point, all of the crazy conspiracies and all that stuff they tend to, you know, they tend to find something new that's more important than what their character archetype would initially imply that is what's important to them. That's just my sloppy way of saying that. I think that's my sloppy way of saying that despite the flaws in the story, I think by the end of it, it found a good way of making me feel comfortable with not having some of those questions answered. I'm going to give this movie a B+. I think that had it gone the extra mile, it could have been something really, really special.
Yeah.
But as it is, it's by no means anything lacking in fun.
Yeah.
Chris?
So I think we're all in a consensus on it. What was your score on it, by the way? I didn't hear
B+.
That. B+? Okay. I will say I feel like I just intentionally have to be more critical with movies because I don't want to. This one it doesn't get up there anyway, but I don't want to like see a pretty good movie and give it an A+. Like right. Even if I see like the best movie this year, I'll probably still give it like an A- or something, and that's completely intentional. But that was just a little preface to what the grade I'll give it. I'm giving this a C+ because I'll highlight some of my positives. It definitely, the first two acts are gripping and stylistic, and it's an amazing style, great direction and blocking, and everything like that, and the long takes. I loved it. I love the frame story surrounding one event. Like you said, it doesn't like repeat the whole movie. It focuses on that one event, and some amazing, phenomenal performances by both by what could be considered A-listers and newbies. Especially a great characterization, especially with Miles Miller. His backstory, I have a lot of family ties to something that happens to him. I guess I won't spoil it, but it was really a deeply complex, and that's, I think, my most appealing twist to the movie is that he was surprisingly complex, and I appreciated it a lot.
And just to jump on, he's also somebody that like is revealed at the very end of the movie.
Yes.
But like it still felt appropriate with the Royale itself. It felt fitting more than Chris Hemsworth's.
Mm-hmm. He was definitely my favorite character. I guess to highlight some of the lower points, like I've said it before, it sets up a lot and doesn't really pay off as much. And we've highlighted a few of those. One of them, I think, was like a murder that was alluded to the whole time. Like they keep saying on television.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I forgot to bring that up, but it's forgettable. Is that there's this murder and they intentionally show it on TV and change the channel, but it never really. I think they straight up say who did it at one point.
Yeah, they do. They straight up show it.
But what does that matter, really?
When I think so. It's a good question because it does basically, it's kind of like the reveal of like, oh, this is what this character kind of does.
I think it didn't tie to the character that showed who did it. It tied to the character that person had a relationship with.
Yeah, so it was,
and again, had they gone in deeper into Chris Hemsworth's character and done kind of a twist like what I was saying, that would have had a bigger impact.
Yeah, that's just one of those things where some things that just seem to fall to the wayside. Like nitpicking, I guess some dialogue was needlessly expository, like John Hamm's whole spiel at the beginning. I felt like he was just giving me the preface to the movie.
This is the El Royale. Let me break down the facts.
By 5 minutes, I'm like, is this the beginning of the movie? Because this feels really weird.
Yeah,
that's very nitpicky.
And then Miles walks in, and he's just like, "Hello."
Yeah, no, it's the dialogue, it's the setup and payoff was annoying, I guess, and we all said it. Chris Hemsworth's character really slows the movie down. So I'll repeat it. C+. Yeah.
I want to though applaud this movie for being, I think, the most positive review yet we've had on Variety Viso.
Yes. You know what? It is. C+.
Congratulations, El Royale. You were the first one.
Woo, woo. Wait, what score did I give? We should really have a score tally thing.
Oh, my God. We really should.
We really should. Well, what score did I give Predator?
I can't remember what I give.
I think you gave it like a C plus B minus.
Okay.
I gave it a C minus, and I think Chris
gave it a D plus.
Yeah, Chris gave it a D plus.
Okay.
I've been the most critical, I think.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, I mean, this one, like, it's definitely the highest. I mean, C plus, I count that as pretty good.
That passes. No, that's a passing grade.
Yeah, it's a passing grade. I mean, it's close to a B. So
and
congratulations again.
I don't usually, when I do this list, I totally disassociate it from like school and like especially American grading because like that one is really critical, or not even critical. It just seems arbitrary because you get an F at 64, which I mean. Then you apply that to other fields where it's like, well, that's more than half, and then you apply it to like brain surgery, and it's like, well, that's a pass or fail. So when I look at A through F, it's definitely, I don't know what the hell that noise is.
It's a vacuum.
It's a vacuum. Okay, that was driving me crazy. But A is like is perfect. Like there is zero flaw. A plus. Right. F is like obviously failed. So I look at it on that objective like increment standpoint instead of like percentages. So that's why I'm like extremely critical. And yeah.
We're not going to keep you here too much longer. We're going to wrap up with just one quick news article. We hinted at it last week, but James Gunn possibly directing Suicide Squad 2 and writing it. Gentlemen, thoughts?
So David Ayer actually went of his way to tweet about this and said that it would be the perfect decision. I think it's because he realized, because I'm pretty sure David Ayer just watched Guardians of the Galaxy when he was directing Suicide Squad and was like, I want to make that. You know, I mean, with a guy like James Gunn on board, let's be real. DC doesn't have a lot of other, like, they can't afford to screw around with James Gunn. James, because like let's look at their track record. The movie that has been the most successful, the most critically acclaimed by DC, by the DCEU, which is a terrible thing. It should be called the DCCU. I don't know why they call it Extended Universe. But Wonder Woman was great. I loved it. It was a great film, and it was a film where, Patty Jenkins, she's a great director, and she did a great job, and it doesn't seem like there was a lot of, too much intervention from, the studio.
Until, the last, 20 minutes.
Until the last 20 minutes, but I like the last 20 minutes anyway, so, I don't really care. So you have that. We're gonna get Aquaman, and that's looking pretty great.
I will say, Aquaman has me actually really hyped.
Yeah, I'm getting really hyped.
Each trailer
for
I
that.
see, I'm like, you know what? This looks way better than any DC movie right now.
I'm in the minority there. I don't think Aquaman looks good at all. I see
my whole priorities with there is because action can be really dodgy with a lot of these films, but this is the first DC film that looks like not only. Could it potentially, with Wonder Woman, it was kind of up in the air. Is it going to be really thematically interesting or not? And I was like, oh, man, this has a really great message that's better than most other superhero films I've watched. With Aquaman, I looked at that and I was like, I can't say for sure, kind of like with Wonder Woman, but what I can be sure of is that this has actual good fight choreography that isn't always CG.
The same thing... the thing that they showed off in trailer 2, I know we're getting off topic here, but the thing they showed off in that second trailer for Aquaman is that one-shot chase sequence through trees. And I was like, that was actually pretty well shot and well done for DC, considering they're usually just heavy CG fights with tons of green screen. Not that wasn't using green screen or anything, but some of it was practical and
overly
some of
reliant on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of it was practical, some of it was CG. Seeing the Black Manta suit
Manta,
and his crew actually wearing practical suits, I was like, oh, thank God.
And some of the quick cuts and shots of him fighting Aquaman were really cool.
Yeah. But, there is a ton of CG in that trailer though. I went, ooh, especially what the climactic battle might be, which I'm thinking it's that huge megalodon shark and everything attacking
which
and whatnot.
which could be pretty cool.
It would be cool, but
depends.
it's just you got to pull back on a few
exactly.
Pull back. Don't get too crazy.
A little bit.
But that second trailer was me so much more hyped.
What got me really hyped about that second trailer was the last shot though of the actual Aquaman suit, and it actually looks pretty good. And I was okay.
And an actual trident, not a quindent.
Yeah.
But the whole point of that whole tangent was just to say that when they let directors do their thing, we get good movies. And James Gunn is a great director. So I think that we're in good hands for a good Suicide Squad film.
Just real quick, for those of you who don't know what happened with James Gunn, is that James Gunn, before he directed Guardians of the Galaxy and even Slither, he was this trauma filmmaker. If you don't know what trauma is, it's these very disgusting, grotesque...
Yeah, the trauma films...
Trauma, I'm sorry, not trauma.
There was a series of videos he made, or at least one. I don't know if I could say this, so you can edit it out if I can. He made fake porn videos.
Okay. Well, he also...
You can edit it out.
He was the screenwriter for the quote-unquote, critically acclaimed film, Tromeo and Juliet.
He directed it, too.
Yes, and if you want to watch if you want to watch all of those films, and also... But in the comfort of knowing that there are people making fun of those films for you... Funhouse on you. They have a great series on Rooster Teeth's website where they watch
Filmhouse.
all of the
not Filmhouse.
It's a theater mode. They watch all those. So if you have a Rooster Teeth first, you get a free trial and stuff like that. It's really just binge it. It's really fun.
I watched Poultrygeist, which is another one, which is like Poltergeist but within a KFC.
I think I heard about that.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, like I said, it's grotesque. People get torn apart or lose limbs or there's one where a guy eats the most disgusting looking piece of fried chicken. He goes to the bathroom and rips himself apart, but when he comes out of himself, he's skinnier. And it's just none of it makes sense. It's just grotesque. It's Adult Swim humor, but on miles of cocaine. Basically is the best way to describe trauma films.
And yet despite all of that actual stuff that probably could have barred him from getting work with Disney in the first place, what set everything into motion with him getting terminated from Disney was a bunch of tweets. So that's how the world works.
It was a bunch of tweets that he made during that period of his life.
Yes.
Tweets that he eventually apologized around 2010
Yeah,
when he
before-
was in talks of
Yeah.
directing
There was
Guardians of the
still-
Galaxy or being involved with Disney.
That whole controversy is its own
Yeah,
disgusting.
and if you
It really is.
and if you want to delve into that, I have a podcast where me and my friends Colin Steele and Michael Murguia talk about that. That we can
Send that
link-
my way. I'll link it on.
We'll link it in the description, and you can check it out. You can also subscribe to the channel in case I ever decide to do anything with that channel again.
But yeah, so he apologized for those tweets. Guardians 1 comes out, Guardians 2 comes out, they're hits. Some political stuff happens on Twitter. Won't go into it too much, but James Gunn calls out somebody, and everybody goes, well, if you're going to call out him, then we're going to call out you from 2008 on Twitter. And then,
Which I think is ridiculous because that's in public. Like, they weren't hidden. They weren't deleted before that.
It is so terrible, too, because I'm in a group chat with a bunch of Marvel fans, and, like, they were talking about how, like, oh, we don't like Dave Bautista anymore because he's supporting that child, what James Gunn was making fun of through his tweets. And I'm like, no, he's not that. It was just tasteless jokes. Tasteless jokes that he has apologized for countless of times.
Yeah.
It got so bad to the point, of course, and you probably saw this petition floating around the internet that every member of the Guardians signed a petition to try and keep him on because it was like, listen, like this man really boosted a lot of careers. 1 for Chris Pratt, 2 for Dave Bautista, and 3, I would even say for the actor for Yondu, Michael Rourke.
Rooker.
Yeah, like
Rooker,
like who he had Walking Dead, of course, but I mean this was even bigger than that, I think. And I was just thinking to myself, like, this guy really.
He was also in Slither.
Oh, that's right. He was in Slither.
It
Like,
legitimized Guardians of the Galaxy too. Because
it
that
did.
is that property.
that movie
before,
is a talking raccoon and tree, and it was one of the best Marvel
exactly.
movies.
Before that was a film, the Guardians comics were like, even to Marvel standards in the '60s, was like C-list, D-list stuff.
Yeah.
Like that was their like that was the stuff they put on.
They
the
are a
burner.
household name that can rival Star Trek and Star Wars.
Yes.
Like that's how much this man brought to Disney, and for him to be scrapped like that. It's understandable how fans felt. They were like, man, Volume 3 now. What the hell's going to happen with that? And, the cast wanted him back and everything. Now, this is a power move.
This is a
This is a big power move from Warner Brothers,
Absolutely.
and I applaud them for doing it. Because you know what, man? He is the perfect guy for Suicide Squad. I would just say that right now. With his dark humor and with his idea of, like, if he were to come on board with it, he wants to reboot it.
Yeah.
I'm 100% on board.
Is he going to make it R-rated?
That I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably
I
not.
still think
But
Warner
he
Brothers
can-
wants
he
to
can
keep it
still-
PG-13.
But he can still make it work.
He can still make it work with.
Oh, yeah.
He just take Guardians of the Galaxy, darker humor.
If he did what he did to Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a not well-established comic, and he could do that to a property that's already like had really great iterations to Suicide Squad,
Oh yeah.
that
You have a great blueprint called Batman Assault on Arkham. It's an animated movie, and it's a great animated movie. Take that and just take bits and pieces of it and work it into your own, man. Go on.
No, I mean that's what I was gonna say is that James, if he could do what he did to Guardians of the Galaxy and do that to Suicide Squad, like that has potential to surpass Guardians of the Galaxy in terms of quality and potential there.
Oh yeah.
So this is definitely a next step in his career. This is if all goes well, if DC just kind of lets him do what he needs to do, this could be a new great chapter for Warner Brothers and for DC Comics.
Look, man, I'm even looking at the picture of the first Suicide Squad cast, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, I would love to see the James Gunn version of these characters, like actually really thought out, developed. Because he'll probably start with a smaller cast than what that film had. Obviously you're gonna have Harley Quinn because you gotta.
Because I don't really want too many. Because
I would say Deadshot has to be another character that you have to bring into the movie.
Maybe I just
I still want Will Smith because I like Will Smith.
The way they're not even certain about recasting at this point.
Yeah,
is the
they're
only
not.
thing.
And it's like, even if you were to make the sequel, and we got the same characters, and it's a sequel from that, I still think it would be a vast improvement.
Because
of what
just
we
get rid of Killer Croc though, because he sucked.
Yeah, he sucked and was kind of a racist stereotype.
Yeah, the way this article is talking about it is that it's going to be a complete reimagining of the Suicide Squad. It's not a continuation of Suicide Squad 1, I guess we could say at this point. Suicide Squad 2 is essentially Evil Dead 2 to the Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah, you know what? You were talking about that last week where, you know, if you want to really do the Evil Dead 2 remake where it's like you really just remake the first film, but it's a sequel, this is your best shot.
Yeah.
Just do that. Like, you know, screw Enchantress. Don't even bring her in. Make the Joker the main villain, okay? You want to, like, redesign the Joker, too. Use Joaquin Phoenix if you have to. You know, like, do what you got to do to really revamp DC.
You know, I'm one of the few people who will defend because I think the problem with the Jared Leto Joker was the fact that the script he had to work with and the director. Okay, I'm gonna say it because I don't think David Ayer is a good director.
Okay.
I've heard several times that his the movies he's directed have just been very sort of like.
What's going on?
Did you just say Jared Leto might have been a good Joker?
You didn't let me finish.
Go on.
I think that because I thought that there were times where he had a pretty commanding presence on screen. It's just the problem is that you have David Ayer, who's not a. I just don't like his style of directing.
You don't like
And
any
then-
of his movies?
You didn't like Fury?
End of Watch or Training? No, he didn't.
It's not so much my own personal experience as much as just what I've heard and some interviews, and it's a whole thing.
Okay.
But I think that and also the script was terrible. I feel like with a good script, I can't pass too much judgment on him until I see him with a decent script.
Okay.
And past that, if it's still garbage, I will happily be on the hate Leto train.
Okay, and to your point, even though like I'm not the biggest fan of Jared Leto's Joker, I will agree though that there's that whole thing where he said, whether this is true or not, I don't know, but he did say there's enough film in that movie, like enough footage where I can just have my own solo movie. And it's like, yeah, I mean, if you shot that much with the guy and you chose, I think, some of the weakest scenes and barely used him, he's going to come off as a crappy Joker.
Right.
Especially because, like, once again, I don't think the Joker should have been introduced in that movie because, well, we really didn't even get a Batman movie yet in the DC universe. Look, man, the whole start to the DC universe was, like, the most bumpy ride ever.
No, it's trying so hard to play catch up with the MCU.
Yeah.
And that's its weakest. That's why it's failing. Is because it's trying.
Because Man of Steel was pretty good.
And Man of Steel was all right. Like, and then it's just like, all you got to do is release Wonder Woman next. And I would be like, you know what? They got a solid universe going. And then you just make a Batman solo movie or just release the Aquaman. Like, build your way to the Justice League. Don't just throw the Justice League out there and be like, all right, there they are, guys. The most iconic superheroes of all time. And didn't make $100 million opening weekend. What?
You have to warm up into it. That's what they had to do with Avengers. That's what they had to do with Guardians. We still barely have made it into cosmic stuff with Marvel, which that's like really nerdy, like unapologetically nerdy comic book crap that we're getting into
and
now.
we're tapping into it with Infinity War, Doctor Strange, and even the Guardians to some extent.
Yes.
And Captain Marvel coming out very soon.
Oh yeah, no. You have to warm up into it. You have to start with your Iron Mans and your Captain Americas. Like it's like comic booky and campy, but it's not this deep lore in deep space and like rewriting how the world works. Whereas they're like trying to do that right away with Justice League. Like that's a lot to just like throw your audience into.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to add to this?
Not to this. I feel like it was something we might be at time now, but there was another topic I kind of wanted to touch on. This could be for next week. There's recent Red Dead 2 controversy and workers' rights violations that are being alleged.
That will be perfect.
Alleged.
Literally, our next review is. Well, I'm gonna get to it right now. Our next review. This is gonna be an iconic sound to you all. Oh, Matthew, are you ready?
No.
This will be Matthew's first
Horror film in the theater.
Would have won the start.
That was great timing.
I know. Yeah, we're gonna be reviewing the Blumhouse Halloween movie, which is being produced by John Carpenter, and this soundtrack that you listen to right now, this remake of it, is also done by John Carpenter himself. I don't know who the director is. I'll bring it up when we actually review the movie, but I've been looking very forward to this movie, especially with the whole premise of Jamie Lee Curtis coming back. This takes place after Halloween, either 1 or 2, I forgot which one, and it's her been basically like kind of like having PTSD ever since being attacked by her own brother, and just being like, oh my God, Michael's gonna escape one day, and I need to prepare for it. I need to make sure this neighborhood stays safe, and like it's just her doing that, and then also Michael Myers just doing his thing and just being creepy and walking around on Halloween. It's just an idea I've been really looking forward to, and it's like not only is it like you're gonna get some good scares, but I can't wait for that showdown between old lady Jamie Lee Curtis and old man Michael Myers. I think that's gonna be badass. But we'll talk about that, because that'll be perfect, because the week after that is when Red Dead 2 comes out. So that'll be great to generate some hype on. So once again, this is Variety Viso, where we talk about movies, television, and video games. And I swear to God, we're going to get to that television and video games eventually. Mark my words. I am Joe Viso. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, go on Twitter, type in @ and then Variety Viso. You can follow us on there. Our SoundCloud, it's going to be updated every once in a while once we get things rolling here. But for right now, you can find our full episodes on YouTube, as well as highlights from each podcast, such as just reviews of themselves or news topics. You also will be able to find vlogs that Chris has been filming and editing.
Editing right now.
Editing right now. So like you'll be seeing those very short. We're getting plenty of content coming your way. Stick around. We got exciting news on the horizon, as long as everything works out, which I'm hoping it does. But once again, I am Joe Viso.
I am Matthew Lundeen.
And I'm Chris Duffy.
And we are Variety Viso. And we will see you next week with Halloween.